Second it.
Okay, we'll call ourselves to order for the Thursday, April 27th regular meeting of the Airport Advisory Board. Tammy, would you do the roll call, please?
Chair Dempsey,
Chair, here?
Member Lester,
Here.
Member Mitchell,
Here.
Member Smizer,
Here.
Member Norval.
Here.
All right. I don't think we're going to have any public input. Okay, all right. You want to just dive right into your presentation?
I think at first we, do the consent agenda first, right? Yeah.
Or,
Do the consent agenda first.
oh, okay.
For the meeting,
Oh,
for the minutes.
this number 2 is not your presentation?
No, sir.
That's number 7. Okay, gotcha. All right, I'm sorry. Okay, the consent agenda, the item 4A is consider the approval of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes from February 23rd. If everybody's had an opportunity to review those, can we get a motion to approve them as written?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. So moved.
Chair Dempsey,
Aye.
Member Lester,
Aye.
Member Mitchell,
Yes.
Member Smizer,
Yes.
Member Norval.
Yes.
Awesome. Consent agenda item 4B, consider the approval of the Airport Advisory Board workshop minutes from February 23rd, 2023.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Chair Dempsey,
Aye.
Member Lester,
Aye.
Member Mitchell,
Aye.
Member Smizer,
Yes.
Member Norval.
Aye.
Any old business? No old business? New business? No new business?
Got nothing.
Okay, I know Jacob has put together a very nice presentation, and everybody should have a copy of it with the slides and some space to make notes on there if you would like to do that. So Jacob, we're going to turn it over to you, sir.
Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Arvin, as you see, is not here. I'm not as good looking, so there you go. He is elsewhere with city staff working on the budget, so he's doing pretty important things today. So I'm in his stead to give the update on, the things we're dealing with now at the airport and things we have upcoming and things that are currently happening. So I'm going to make my presentation, kind of just go through everything I've made. If you can, hold comments and questions to the end. That's why I got the presentation there with the lines. And you put your questions there or whatever. I've got a place at the end to go through that, so that way, I'm not trying to fire off things that maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So that way I can come back to you later and get information for you, answer your questions, what have you. We'll just do that, kind of as a round table in a sense there at the end. And then I've got a QR codes at the last portion of it. If somebody had showed up, it'd probably been more apt for them, but still useful nonetheless. So anyways, dive right into it. Let's see. All right, so just first, there'd be a little overview there. It's not in any kind of specific order. It's just kind of how my notes worked out. But as you see, we're going to talk a little bit about noise, the budget for fiscal year 24, capital improvement projects coming up, local projects we have going on, a little bit of property management update, a little bit on the SkyFest, community outreach, a little bit administrative for the board, the recent RSAT that Mr. Zeiler put together, and then just other business. So for noise, that's obviously something that's just continues to be something that we're working on. It'll be kind of ongoing. It's not something that we plan on or seeing going away anytime soon. For the Part 150 noise refreshing update, we are currently, we as in the consultants, they are collecting all of the data from the sources in order to draw the contour maps. And it's going to take them a little while to do that. Once they have those contour maps and they put together some digestible material, we'll then move forward with the workshops. And so for those workshops, we're going to have a day and a night, and they're going to give us pretty ample time in order to schedule that and advertise that, so that way we don't have any issue with someone not being able to make those workshops. And then So that's pretty much the next step on that. There's really, nothing else for us to report there. Noise abatement, that's been a thing for a long time. It continues to be. We've been having these monthly meetings with Epic, and they've been very responsive to that and making sure they're there with, the data that they collect from Vertower. They have hired a noise abatement officer who, internally will review all of the data, and, they'll meet with the instructors if anybody's, violated it, because they've made it essentially mandatory for themselves. And with that, it's helped. It has reduced the flyovers for the noise sensitive areas, even though their flight activity's increased, especially with Massey, having that landing fee that they had started, about a month ago. That's increased our flight activity, because for a minute there, they were having some issues with Epic pilots down there. So they had come back and they were doing more flights up at our airport, to kind of, until they get that figured out with Massey. I don't know where they're at with that this very moment, but they did say they're trying to get some kind of payment plan with them. On that, Arvin's has been having some open dialogue with Embry-Riddle, as well as like Phoenix East and the other local flight schools, to try and start to have similar meetings. The benefit there is that, not only will we hopefully try and curb some of this noise abatement, especially the late hours stuff, but also it'll keep open communication between us and the flight schools. And so, hopefully we can get their feedback on the airport as a whole, not just for noise, but also as a whole. That way, it helps us, make sure that, we're maintaining a good field for the training, because it's such obviously an important area for all the training that goes on. And so, we're looking forward to that. Also, we've been doing some continuing education with local pilots. Me being a tenant at the field and flying it, and, being out of there. I remember seeing it when I was just operating there as whether a pilot or working on somebody's airplane. So, just something that's been around. We're increasing that. We've got, some literature at the fuel farm, and then the recent signage project added some signs on the field that talks about that, looking at the noise abatement prior to takeoff, near the whole short line. So that's just something else to try and, nab any of these ones and twos that, come in. It's still going to happen. We know that. The important thing is that, safety is paramount. So obviously that number of flyovers is never going to be zero, or at least very good likelihood it'll never be zero. And so we want to make sure that, everyone's flying in the airspace and they're being safe. They're also being cognizant, if they can be, and abiding by the procedures, but ultimately want to make sure that, they get what they need done, and at the same time trying to be the best neighbors that they can be. So we do have other information, at the QR code at the end you'll see, and some of you have handouts there. It talks about obviously our local noise, and then anything the FAA provides on that. All right. So next we've got budget fiscal year 24. So recently Arvin had a mini budget workshop with the City Commission, and you can go over and review his entire presentation through the city website, and I can send you the link if you can't find it yourself. And so with that, I'm just going to show a little bit of the highlights from his presentation. He started out by talking about the economic impact that came out in January from 2022 that the FDOT had completed. That shows that by their calculations, our airport has an annual impact of $241 million. Impacts about 1,700 jobs and $80 million in payroll. So that's feather in the cap. We want to make sure that we support the businesses at the airfield, and we're providing as good as a field we can and working with them so that we can promote growth for them and for us. So the proposed fiscal year 24, if you would like more information, looking at year over year, certainly contact us, and we can show you year over year kind of where the budget has been.
I think it was in his presentation.
Yes. So if you watch that presentation, you'll see that. And here I'm just showing what's proposed for next year. This year is higher than last year. Two main reasons for that is this is a construction year versus a design year like last year was. So that's going to bump our capital outlay quite a bit. And then personnel services shows are higher for this next year because of what I'm about to mention next as far as some kind of wish list items. Speaking on that, the wish list items there, so yeah, staffing increase and title changes. So first off, it'll be, we would like to change the titles of our maintenance crew, which, right now they are, their description is maintenance, and they're maintenance that also do operations. But what we would like to do is to change the culture and make them true airport operations that also do maintenance. This way that we're driving the point home, this also comes with a pay raise for them. So that we're driving the point home to them that, the airport operation stuff is crucially important, taking care of fuel, making sure we got clean and dry fuel for the users. And then also, making sure that the airport surfaces are clean. With this, since January, we've started Saturday rotations that I'm even part of as well. So we do have 6 days of coverage as of now for fuel runway inspections, and also making sure that the facilities are clean for the users, things of that nature. So, that's one of the, I guess, title change things that we would like. Another would be a title change for Tammy, who's our current admin. She's doing obviously a lot of different things more than just, administrative assistant things. So she's been phenomenal. And so we'd like to change her title to be contract administrator. And so she'll be handling, these contracts they're changing all the time. The FAA, FDOT have different timelines for things. It's just, it can be so time consuming. And so, she's already doing a great job at it. And for her to focus more on that and not have to focus on, day to day, dealing with, people that come in. And we have a lot of foot traffic, which is kind of surprising, to some. We do get a lot of foot traffic. Also, obviously, phone calls, whether it be noise, tenant issues, just people calling to ask about the airport, because I know when I fly somewhere, typically I'll call that airport, and if I'm unfamiliar with something, I'll try and get a heads up of where certain things are, or, because ForeFlight or whatever service you use can be, unpredictable at times. So anyways, to our point is that with her title change, we would want to add another member in the office. And so this would help, they would be a true receptionist. They would be sitting there making sure to take these calls, be more kind of one-on-one when somebody comes in. They're also trying to do various other things. And so this will help, make sure that, our contracts that are coming through have no mess ups. We don't want to have an issue where, because other things are being attended to, a contract, a specific thing that the FAA wants gets missed, and now we've missed that grant or something crazy, we timeline missed, that sucks for us if that happens, because then, we can't either get pushed off or something, or, what have you. So anyways, that's kind of some other wants that wish list items that we have. Then we have a need for a 4-door pickup truck that's 4x4, because none of the trucks we have now are 4x4. We have a Kubota that's 4x4. But, we have a lot of wet lands out there that, especially obviously during Ian, which is a kind of extenuating circumstance, we had trucks get stuck and we had to take the Kubota out there. It was a whole thing. So to have a 4x4 truck would be great for us. We would auction off the small SUV we have now and then move into the truck. And then that way, we've got a truck for each of our operations staff that are out there. And then we would have 2 office trucks. One's a 2-door long bed, the other one would be a 4-door, 4x4. That would, certainly help us in many, many items. So that's another wish list item. And obviously SkyFest, which is a big item for everybody. We asked for $150,000 on the proposed budget, and Arvin's now working. Like I said, he's over there today, going through, justifications of certain things. So. And that's kind of like the summation of his budget presentation. Like I said, if you want to see the whole thing, it's on the city website. So next we'll be moving on to capital improvement projects. I'm just going to run through each one, kind of where they're at now, and then kind of what the next step is. So first off, airfold signage rehab. So that's a completed project in terms of, physical things that have happened. We're finalizing the paperwork now to close it out officially, but that one, for all intents and purposes, is finished. Backup AWAS, the issue there is that we're still waiting on the FCC to get back with us on the registration for the antenna we have. And then there's some microchips that are still on back order that are just taking quite a bit of time. So we're just waiting on that, and that's holding up some other things. So. It's the supplier issue, which obviously I'll talk about a little bit later, but everyone's been seeing that. Taxiway Alpha, reconstruction. It was a rehab, but the concrete pavement index for that ended up being too low, so it became a reconstruction project. So that's more in depth. It's, increased our budget quite a bit to cover that, or at least our portion of it. So that will be advertised May 2nd currently, and then a tentative bid opening of May 26th. And I'm pretty sure that those dates should still be correct. And then as we get closer to construction, we'll advise the users of logistics during that time, because, it's going to obviously tie up taxiways. We've been having, meetings with Mr. Zeiler and the tower to make sure that we're all on the same page when that happens, and that we can provide NOTAMs that let all the pilots know what's going on, and that way, there's no miscommunications going on. So looking forward to getting it done, though. Fuel farm improvement. We just had the pre-bid meeting for that on April 25th, and then we tentatively have a bid opening of May 18th. As with Taxway Alpha reconstruction, same deal. We're going to keep a good, communication with the tenants, because, in order to make sure we have fuel, even though, our tanks are being completely stripped down and redone and our third tank added, we still need to have fuel. So we're going to work with the contractor and our fuel provider to always make sure we got fuel during that time frame. And again, we'll also make sure we're always putting out NOTAMs so that if anything does happen, our users are aware. So next, we've got so this is pretty exciting. So if you didn't hear about it, we were one of 2 airports selected in the state to receive FAA funding for the tower rehab. Our tower was built in 2003, 2004 timeframe. It's got some issues. We've been working on it to make sure that, we can try and keep it up best we can. We want to keep our tower crew happy. They do a phenomenal job for us. It's, Jim Zeiler there, he's been phenomenal to work with, and we want to make sure that they're taken care of. So we finally got that through. They approved it, and so now we've got a consultant and an architect coming to the airport tomorrow to start that process. It's a very short timeline, so we've got to get on the ball here to make sure that that's all taken care of as well. So we're looking forward to it, though. It needs some love. So after that, we've got Taxiway Bravo rehabilitation. That's going to include that runway end realignment that was voted on at the last day, maybe the previous one before that. That it's going to unfortunately reduce a little bit of asphalt, but something we need to have done to clear up our license. So this is we've submitted the pre-app and responded to the FAA for some questions they had, and we're waiting on them to issue the grant and start the design on that project. So that'll be good. Next, after that, T-Hanger Foxtrot rehab. That's been kind of postponed a little bit. The bid that came back, we only got one bid back, and they wrote it up that something that really wasn't working well with city policy, nor did the the FDOT feel good about it. So we have to go back out to bid for that one. We would like to get it back out to bid. Hopefully we discussed it with that contractor, kind of what the issues were, and hopefully they can adjust and rebid. So that may push that back. Where maybe if we get the bid back going, and procurement materials is going to be kind of pushed out, maybe winter time, early next calendar year. So good thing about that is that before we were worried we'd be kind of in the peak of hurricane season with the doors off. So we're not really going to have that issue now. So we're kind of happy about that part. Silver lining, so to speak. So as far as capital improvement, that's what we got right now. Okay, local projects. So I just kind of named them that, but there's something that we handle internally, just some items that we've been addressing to solve some things that have been going on, or whether it's been reported to us or something we know we need to have done. So first up is T-Hanger Echo. That's one of the oldest T-Hangers there in the south side, and that one had a rehabilitation not long ago, but they missed some items, so we're looking to correct that. We've had some issues, complaints from some of the tenants, and they're justified. So we're coming back around to take care of those items. Near the end of last year, we replaced the door seals. That ended up contacting some asphalt they had in the door tracks. The asphalt's really kind of an uncommon thing to have there, and it's not as good as concrete for many reasons. So we tore that asphalt out, and now we've got a pay order with the contractor to get some hydraulic concrete mix That's supposed to be a good mix for doing door tracks, so that'll be next, and it'll work well with the door tracks as well, or I'm sorry, with the door seals as well, so we shouldn't have issues. And then after that, we've got some rusting purlins that, obviously if you have an airplane, you know you don't want rust falling on it. So we are working to get the purlins replaced as well. And that's just a step-by-step process on our own to make sure that those tenants are taken care of. You know, they pay good money to be in those hangars, and we want to make sure that they're happy in them. And so yeah, that's for that hangar. Next, I'll show you a picture here in a minute, but we have, we're going to be building a 20 by 50 maintenance building over kind of in between the tower and T Hangar Delta there in the north side of the field. And that's going to be great because we're able to not only free up a T hangar that will then, produce revenue, we will move all of our equipment into that building and, have a nice new location for tractors, mowers, a spot for the guys. And so looking forward to that. There's certainly a need for it. It'll have, power, water, all the fun stuff. So we're in the early stages of that. We're waiting on the engineering drawings to come back from the company that's building it. And then we're going to have site work done by a local contractor we've worked with before. So after that, we've got airport marketing. It sounds fancier than it really is. It's mostly a website and, new logo design. We found a need for having a website that's, separate of the city website, something that's presents the airport in a better way. It provides information, disseminates information better. It's somewhere for somebody to go, whether they need to, make a noise complaint, find information. T-hangar tenants potentially could have a portal where they could, submit, issues that they're having, comments, whatever the case may be, and also potentially maybe a location for hangar payment. We don't know. There's obviously budgetary constraints, so all the buttons and bells and whistles you add obviously add money there. So we're working within our constraints to make sure that we're all we're being financially conscious while also building a website that really represents the airport well. So I'll show you in a minute kind of an example of where one of the companies we talked to, they built the Boca Raton website, and we've seen that looks like something that could work well for us. The next, fuel provider RFP. So a fuel provider RFP is coming up in January of 24. That's where, it's going to be a proposal from different fuel providers. Recently, we've had some issues, whether some of it be our provider's fault or not, force majeure situation, no matter what, we need to make sure we've got fuel. We eat up a lot of avgas. I mean, we get a full 8,500 gallon truck a week right now. I mean, it's, having a secondary tank for avgas is going to be nice for that. We do about 8,500 a jet every 3 weeks or so, depending on, obviously what we have coming in on the jet side. So we're looking forward to that. We would like to potentially have a backup provider in the event that our primary cannot get us fuel in time. This way, we kind of are making, it's an insurance policy at that point where, we're not going to have an issue of, hey, we can't get you your fuel by tomorrow, whatever, and then we call our backup when we can get fuel. Again, having that other tank, when we put that in, having 24,000 gallons of avgas on the field is going to be a big help. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to that. So next I'll show you the kind of an example of the website, just to kind of track back there a little bit. So this is just a snapshot, whatever, of their main page. It's got various things you can go to. That, obviously we don't have customs, different things, so it would be tailored to us. So something just to look forward to as we kind of research that. We're shopping around to different designers. This is just one of the examples, but to show you kind of something else we're working on.
Nice choice of aircraft.
That's what I thought. So for the 2050 by 50 proposed site, this is just something I threw up a little bit. It'll show you that red box there. Inside that is just, that's not an exact scale or the type of building, but it's going to be a long building with 2 roll-up doors. The idea is that, both doors come up, the tractor can drive straight through. He doesn't have to back up every day because that can be a struggle for some. So this way they drive through and, has plenty of room both sides to hold all of our other equipment. And but yeah, that's the location it's going to be at. for now, unless something, changes or we decide, or find out that there, who knows what's, with that site. You just tentatively, that's what we're looking. Okay, property management. So this is something that, it's taken us some time, both on a lease side and as far as like the physical buildings themselves to get corrected. It's been a little bit of a chess game, but I think we're making some good headway. We're going to be updating commercial leases, a lot of verbiage to update the verbiage. And this is not only for the businesses that operate every day, but even some of the leases that include like the VFW Garden Club that are just old leases that we have to correct to make it, where the FAA is happy with it as well. So this is just some other, again, this is various things. If you want any special information on that as far as a specific lease or whatever, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll get you updated. Also, with the buildings themselves, an issue has been, challenges with contractor reliability. We've been very fortunate that one of our contractors, he used to work for Mark Martin and take care of his hangars and his aircraft, so he loves being out at the airport. It's a benefit to us because, he likes doing things with us and we like working with him and other companies as well, but he's kind of been for a lot of the small jobs. And so we've been fortunate there, but no matter what, getting bids or quotes or what have you, it can be a struggle at times. Suppliers, same deal, and that's on their end, with the contractor having to get the materials. It's just, since the COVID thing, it's really been it's been a struggle, but nothing's impossible, so it's just a matter of working through it. And that's what we're trying to do. All right. Skyfest 24, something obviously we're still very excited about and planning. Last meeting for April was canceled due to various volunteers being unable to make it. Plus that day there was supposed to be some pretty nasty weather coming in that, you didn't want to be driving in. So it all kind of just made sense to push it till May. We got updates from everybody via email or phone calls. And so, that kind of worked out. The next meeting will be May 11th at 4 p.m. in the Epic Aviation Conference Room. If you want specific directions for that, please give us a call. We'll set you up. But for our update, we have a jet truck already signed paperwork with them. And so we're looking to add other vendors. We've already had open dialogue with several other vendors, but, we want to make sure that the horse becomes before the buggy kind of situation. So that's exciting on our end. For the event marketing, we have to still look to develop a website for that. That's kind of a single point for everyone to get their information. There's an individual that's currently working on that we're working with, and then also potentially some kind of social media platform. We know that can be a dark hole at times when it comes to social media, but if we do it right, it should be okay. So any other questions on that? Again, if you got them at the end or, after this, or any other information, you can go to the next Skyfest meeting and it'll be there. All right. Community outreach. So in the past, I believe it was the last couple of weeks, we had a member of the Boy Scouts come out, gave him a tour around the airfield, gave him a lot of information on the rich history of the airport, showed him different things that we do day to day, and then kind of showed them all the cool things we have going on now, all the things we're looking forward to. So, and by way of that, when they were here, they came out and did that and learned those things, they went back to the Boy Scouts and they earned an aviation merit badge, so that was pretty cool for them. Mm-hmm. It was them and a parent that came out. Looking for the future, we've got potentially the Girl Scouts are going to come out in the summertime and work with us as well as Epic to, do some kind of, event for, one of their groups. So that'll be cool. And then Mr. Dempsey was mentioning the Young Marines as well, engaging with us in multiple ways, maybe taking care of the plaque and the prop up front. So looking for these different things. It's nice to be able to connect with the community and, try and hopefully engage with the next generation of aviation, because I've been around this airport a long time as both a pilot and A&P, and I'm sure that some of you have been dealing with this airport as long as I've even been alive. So I appreciate you keeping it up. And so that's exciting. And then I've mentioned it to a couple of you. For the Airport Advisory Board Administrative, So we've got 4 board members that are set to expire on September 9th of this year, which when it comes to renewals, we don't have anybody right now that's completely termed out. So as far as, it says 3 or 4, but working on the 4th there. So you will be, contacted by city clerk's office if you have any questions about that. Please reach out to them. As far as applications, there's been some applications submitted if there is any openings that come up. So just to mention there so that you're aware of kind of where we're going to be at come September. All right, for the RSAT, Jim Zeiler recently gave an RSAT meeting here, and this is just a couple of highlights from that. One would be a runway excursion we had in January, if you've heard of it or not. But I'm just going to read his narrative that was submitted. So this was, January 19th of this year. It was day VMC, it was Part 91. And so Aircraft A, as you see there in the red box above Hotspot 1, was piloted, it was a student solo. And the aircraft, or ATC at the time didn't know it was a student solo. And so they had previously been cleared to land on runway 29, and they had some issues with the winds. But anyways, they aborted the attempt and entered right-hand traffic for runway 25. When ATC cleared aircraft Alpha to land on runway 25, wind was reported as 220 at 9. Upon landing, aircraft A lost control. The right wing struck the pavement. And then the prop then struck the pavement after that, and before it veered off runway 25 on the south side between taxiway Echo and taxiway Alpha. Student pilot was not injured, and the runway excursion was classified as an incident, not an accident, so that was good in terms of the FAA, and obviously with no fatal action happening, that's also helped it being an incident. So with that, we did check the asphalt after the fact. There were some abrasions on the asphalt surface, nothing deep enough that warranted patching, but we do monitor that along with, as we do if we get a lightning strike or anything, if we need to patch it, we patch it. Otherwise, we just monitor it. Quarterly, we've been doing our own internal kind of deeper inspections on the runways on top of the annual FDOT inspection. And so that way we're just making sure that surface is good. So open items for that. This is tentatively resolved. We have a second windsock that's been something that's wanted for quite a while, and that's going to be constructed as part of the Taxiway Alpha project. We hope to have that completed by the end of this fiscal year. So by September, October timeframe, we hope to have that second windsock out there. So that should be a closed item. We had no new items brought up at the RSAT, so that's pretty good. And then kind of other business, staffing, we hired Mr. Noyim there to see a picture of him. He was very excited to take that picture. And he's maintenance 3 now, so if you see him on the field, welcome him, tell him hello. He's a really nice guy, got a kind of interesting background. So yeah, he's a cool guy if you see him out there on the airfield. Other business from that, cranes, we've kind of seen an increase in just random cranes popping up around the airport, which, especially for the helicopters is a no-go. So, some of the days we've had the tower call us and say, hey, I see a crane pop up in Islesboro. And, obviously that's where mosquito control is located, so that's an issue. We'll drive right over and talk to the crane operator or whoever and, get it rectified pretty quickly. So Arvin has been working with city staff to kind of improve the permitting process to make sure that, anything within the airspace of our airport, is going to go through an FAA study and proper timelines. I mean, we'll still have issues, I'm sure. It's been an ongoing thing for some time. But if we can mitigate that, it's kind of our goal. And then that way we can also put NOTAMs out with the coordinates, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's just one other thing that was kind of Arvin wanted me to address. And now we can get to the portion of your comments and questions, and I'll be happy to write anything down, come back to you later. And if you don't have anything, that's fine too.
On the airport website and the marketing for the Skyfest, do you need somebody for the website, or you said you had somebody?
So that's tentative. We have somebody, but we've not had any kind of feedback from them yet, so that may still be an opening.
Okay, because the Shock Group, which is on Washington, or Washington right over there, they do marketing and websites, and they could do a airport website. And then for Skyfest, I'm not saying he would do it, but he likes giving back to the community, and that's what he does, is marketing, and they are extremely good.
Okay.
So
Okay, good, thank you.
it's SHOK.
SHOK. Oh, you said on Washington?
Yeah, it's just a couple blocks down.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good, because again, that's something that we've been trying to get from, the person that said they're gonna do it, but yeah, that's good.
He's good people to deal with.
Awesome.
Awesome. Was that it, Gary?
That was it for me.
Celeste, did you have any questions?
Have you guys ever tried to get one of the local car distributors like Chevrolet or Ford to actually donate us a truck? Have you ever tried that before?
I'm not aware of the city doing that in the past. I can certainly ask. Yeah.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
I mean,
That's a good point.
especially, probably maybe Jack Holcomb might. He's Chevrolet. I forgot the guy's name of the, you know the guy's name that's got Mullinex Ford?
Larry Mullinex.
Larry Mullinex, maybe. I mean, we
Okay.
don't have,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll ask that question.
Is that it, Celeste?
that's it. Well, that's it for right now.
Right now. Okay, well, this is regarding your questions. We still have AAB members' concerns or comments that we're going to go to. This is about his presentation.
I had a question about the maintenance building. Originally, a few years back, it was going to be a combination of maintenance and the administrative offices. So now that has changed. The administrative offices will stay where they are. That's the plan for the future.
So, yeah, when we were looking at the plans for that, that was pushed back because of the acquisition of Baker Aviation, that property there at 333 South Street. So we were looking through the plans of what was designed. It really was going to be kind of off the airport and didn't really serve the airport for growth. So kind of Arvin's vision, and I share that with him, would be to, at the time being, we keep what we're at now, and then, design something that's potentially more of a GA terminal. Nothing extravagant, but something that would fit the airport for our needs and provide us some space for growth and more of a welcome center for when pilots come in. And so this maintenance building would, then be separate of that, kind of off where, we could, tailor it to, our personnel and operations, and then an admin building that would serve the airport, more than be just a maintenance building with a couple of offices. So that's kind of our vision, because obviously with the airport, being part of that vertiport study and being shown that we could potentially become a vertiport as well, we have other things down the pike that we're looking at, and, we need something that would help us, 10, 15, 20 years from now, and we need to be, obviously thinking long-term with that. So to your question, yes, that has changed.
It wasn't going to be off airport property. It was,
No, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not off of actual physical airport property, but it was going to be off of the airfield. So it was going to be kind of behind some of the hangars. You had no you couldn't see, and, it was just going to be kind of hidden back in the Hoax over there off of US 1.
where I thought it was going to be was between Airgate and the lagoon.
That was another potential site for it, yes, but there was some challenges with that site from my
Right,
understanding.
the trees.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see, now these change in titles for the working crew, the grass cutters and the fuel check and so forth. You want to change their titles, and you suspect that that will change their work in how?
Sure. So as of now, Arvin and I have been more of the, for physical, actual aviation things happening, whether it be, a wildlife incident or something, it's been us taking care of it. And so, because our guys are not as, none of them really have any aviation background. This is their first aviation experience. So we're bringing them up to that level of, you know, the understanding of how, kind of how everything operates, you know, underneath the umbrella of the FAA. And so, you know, they've not been handling, you know, they do certain things with us, but typically supervision if it's something that's on the airfield that deals with aircraft. Because, you know, Arvin and I both, you know, me being an AMP and pilot and him being an FBO manager for many years, you know, we obviously are more comfortable around the aircraft, and our guys have not had that. So we're training them, you know, we're bringing them up to standard, you know, recently got them certified for fueling and everything. So yes, they would be doing more things on the airfield as airport operations instead of just going out there mowing. And so that's kind of our vision for them, and they're excited about it. You know, that's a good thing about our team we have now is that they're looking forward to learning those things and, you know, really kind of fully diving into the aviation world.
Now, will this involve a pay increase?
That would be our goal, yes.
Let's see.
How will that affect the budget?
What's that?
How will that affect the budget?
So I think that's calculated in there as well. He would have, if you go back and review that that budget for the fiscal year 24, he goes into more detail on the actual airport operations staff and their pay increase.
Oh.
I don't have those numbers in front of me right now.
Okay, just curious.
Mhm.
You
Now,
know, it's like 5%, 10%.
Now, you said you were reviewing the leases, and you mentioned the garden club. Don't they have a $1 per year forever? I mean, can you change this?
It's not forever.
Yeah, I believe it's for
100
Yeah,
years.
It's an extended period of time.
extended
100
period of time.
years.
So we would want to have discussions with them just to try and change the verbiage. You know, the actual day-to-day of what they have going on wouldn't change. It's just we need to change some of the administrative side of it because it was done so long ago that some of the verbiage needs to be updated for the FAA to be happier about it.
Okay, but no difference in their lease?
No, they shouldn't
amount.
have any changes. You know, we would definitely like to open, you know, dialogue with them as far as working with them more potentially in the future. But no, it shouldn't really affect what they have going on.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay, I just have a couple. On the noise project, I know that there have been some issues with data collection for them, but where are they on the timeline that they gave us when they came in here and did the presentation weeks ago?
I can give you the rundown of the timeline they gave us. I can send you that.
No, my question is, are they generally still on schedule to meet the target date that they threw out? There was a lot of angst here in that meeting about how long that was going to take. And I just am asking, are we still on track for that date?
Yes, so they've indicated to us that all the information that was put out prior, they're still on schedule for that. We've not been told by them if there's been any delays. I'll double check. One of the consultants with that will be here tomorrow. He'll be there for the tower.
Okay.
So I'll get some update from him as well, and I'll let you know as far as if that's changed since, you know, when we last spoke with them.
Okay.
But my understanding is they're still on schedule.
Okay, all right. Apparently, my community had quite a few people here for that last meeting, so now they all are checking with me nonstop to find out what's going on with it, so.
Well, I believe they were told 12 months.
Well, they were told, I thought they were told September, October.
Yeah,
I believe that was the timeline, yes.
September.
Was it? Okay, sorry.
September, October. Okay. The EPIC meeting that, during the RSAT, the 3 EPIC guys came to me and invited me to that meeting that you guys have with them on the noise and status and review of, when is that? I thought I had put it in my phone, but I didn't.
May 7th, right?
It's the first Wednesday of every month
All
at 2:30,
right, first one.
and it's right in the office.
Do you send out an invite for
I
that?
can send you one.
Okay, is that at what time?
2:30.
2:30 PM, okay. Yeah, they wanted me to come see what was going on with that. I don't know I'll be every time, but I'd like to come and sit in on,
Okay.
just to help me with what I'm dealing with the Inlet Shores community is where I live, so. It's right there. Okay, bear with me for a little bit more, Jacob.
Sure.
What did you say Tammy's title was going to change to?
Contract administrator, and she'll also be doing some things in the property management side as well.
Okay, awesome.
Now, where will her office be located? Because you're going to hire a secretary.
So that's we're working on that. You know, obviously our building is very limited, but, you know, we're going to be creative. You know, we don't mind being close to each other. We like each other a pretty good amount. So we're going to be creative with that. You know, we would hope to start getting this admin building going soon. You know, the architect that's here tomorrow, we're also going to speak with him about drawing some stuff up for the location we're at now. You know, again, that's very preliminary, but, you know, it would, again, that'd be nice to kind of add that, so we will have space and a true reception desk and everything else moving forward, but for the time being, yeah, we're just going to have to be creative.
You're not going to put her in that private room next to the refrigerator, are you?
Yeah, stuff back there, you know, yeah, those cabinets get pretty decent amount of space in there.
What about doing a second story on that building?
There used to be, you know, yeah, there used to be a tower cab on the top, I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have we looked into that to see what the cost factor would be?
Well, that's the thing. It's one of those deals where it's like, you know, you get your return on that kind of investment if you're going to go ahead and demo the building sometime in the next few years anyhow.
But if we become, if we have a really big FBO, we need that space because you know how it is. The pilots want to come in and relax and do their thing and, you know, and then you also have people that would come in with their suitcases and stuff like that. I'm thinking the big picture. That's my brain.
Oh, we're right there with you. Yeah, it's,
So I just wondered about a second story because logically, that would probably, I don't know if that would be the least expensive though, because it's concrete block, isn't it?
that
And-
building is, yes. Mhm.
And it's like a rock.
Yeah, it's a pretty stout building.
Yeah.
I was in there for part of the hurricane, yeah.
Couple steel beams going across the top and, you know, then start doing some block, you know.
But you are thinking of making a bigger FBO, aren't
Yeah,
you?
so the building would potentially go up in size. Again, this is, you know, obviously it's always a budget thing and what kind of funding we can get and, you know, what the city would support, city commission would support. But we want to, obviously, again, do something that would fit the airport well. You know, we're not thinking of doing some kind of Ocala type thing where it's some massive, you know, terminal where, but, you know, them being an international airport and all this, we're, you know, again, you got to do what's best for your airport and do something that's going to, you know, be a welcoming center and, you know, obviously serve the staff that's there. So we're looking forward to that. And if more information comes out on that, you'll be well aware of it when that comes about.
Yeah, we have talked about this before. Remember, you mentioned DeLand FBO that they just had and so forth. So something along that order.
Yes, they have something very similar to that would be great. I mean, theirs is quite large for kind of the size airport, but it's a very nice building. You know, Arvin and I toured it when we were there meeting with Mr. Ife over in DeLand to kind of see how he did things. So, and, you know, obviously it's fun. You know, I get to fly around. I get to see all these different FBOs and, you know, general aviation type terminals. So it's good to have that kind of, I guess, ideas in your head as well.
Okay, I'll continue. On the backup WAS, you mentioned waiting on the FCC and chips. What's the timeline? What's your best wag on having that up and running?
So last time we spoke with Dan Nichols of GAI, he didn't even have a timeline from the supplier on the microchips, unfortunately. So, you know, that's up in the air. The FCC, he's been trying to reach back out to them regarding the registration. So it's been a little bit of a game with that one.
Okay.
Are the chips coming from China?
I believe so. That's what he said.
Okay. I know the second windsock is tied to taxiway A, and I thought that the timeline for taxiway A was going to be a lot longer than the end of the year.
So for the windsock portion,
The windsock portion.
Correct.
Okay, good. Because I'm kind of, because that's the one thing that's still an open RSAT item for us is that windsock, not having that second windsock. So, good. All right, that was good.
yeah, so basically, where you exit 725 off of at Alpha, The windsock will be coming off of that portion of Alpha, which was already done, I believe, when 725 was redone.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be touched pavement-wise, but that's where the windsock will go. And then, there'll be, sequence of different phases from the intersection of Alpha and Bravo all the way back to the intersection of Charlie and Alpha.
Okay. Okay. On the taxiway B, and everything, that's where we're going to get back to being compliant again. And what is the end date for that with all the planning and bids and what are we estimating that when we'll have that one behind us?
I believe right now we're looking at about a year and a half for that to be something that's, completed and we can clear our name, so to speak.
Okay.
But I will double check on that to make sure that's still accurate.
Okay. All right. Hang on just for a second. Almost done. I'm good.
Good.
Any questions from Jacob's presentation or anything?
Just that where your proposed building is, there's a lot of utilities down there, and I'm sure engineering will accommodate those. You have a water main running through there and a power distribution box right in that area.
And that's what part of the conversation we're going to have tomorrow with both the consultant and the architect when they're here. So we'll give them all the as-builts that we have, and hopefully they can help us out with that. But thank you.
Okay. Any comments, additional comments from the board?
Not for me.
Gary?
Write down Higginbotham.
Say again?
Write down Higginbotham for the vehicle, because
Okay.
he's got
Right.
out there. Just need to go schmooze him.
Okay. Ms. Meisner, do you have anything else?
None.
I just wanted to mention one thing, and Jacob briefly mentioned, and Arvin and I were talking one time about when we were back on the other event, and we were talking about Jack Bolt's son, Robert.
Yeah.
And he had come to New Smyrna, and he was getting gas, and he went out front, and he was looking at his dad's plaque, and he came back in and said, well, could somebody clean that up a little bit?
Oh.
And that's what got us started. And so the other day, I just drove around there and got out and checked it out, and then I did a little bit of research on it, and the plaque was put in way back in 2006. And Gary was instrumental in getting the airport named for Jack Bolt, okay, and getting that plaque there and that propeller there and everything. So, but it's obviously been a long time since 2006, and the coding behind the raised lettering has been badly beaten up by hurricanes and UV rays and everything else, and it's coming off. And the thought occurred to me as I was standing there reading that plaque that with his Marine Corps background, and I know that the Volusia County Marine Detachment, and which is also has the young Marines in their group, they're doing projects like that. So, and they meet in the VFW building up in Port Orange where our VFW meets. So I had a little conversation with one of them, and they would be very excited, and they want me to come up and talk to them a little bit about. So I was going to take some pictures of it at a distance and then close in on the plaque and give them some background on it, and maybe think about doing a fundraiser for them. They could do a fundraiser, come up with the money to get the plaque back to the beautiful original condition that I'm sure it was when it was put there, and then use the young Marines to keep it polished, okay?
That's a good idea.
So it kind of, and he was excited about that, so they want me to come up there at their meeting in May, the second Thursday in May, they meet at the VFW building and do, so I was going to take some pictures and go up there and have some conversation with them and see if they would be. So I wanted to share that with you folks to make sure that everybody was okay with going in that direction. Not
I
that
think
I'm
that's a
asking.
good idea. I
Okay.
mean, especially if we can get young whippersnappers to
Right.
you know, clean that up, and then we can maintain it, you know. Maintenance like once every 6 months or something.
No,
And
they,
two
they
gyms.
want to
Oh, they
maintain,
wanna maintain
they
it.
want
Hey.
to, they want to maintain it. They want to make a project out of it. Now, they want me to come up there and present it so that they can vote on it, but he said, I can pretty much guarantee you this is going to be a go, is the way the guy was talking to me. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, this is a good way to get an awesome group. The Marine Corps League is who they are, that's the parent group. And then the Young Marines, the lady, Sarah, that runs the Young Marines locally, she's the adjutant with the Marine Corps League. So they're all knitted together. And he thought this would be awesome, to get those young guys in front of that kind of,
Yeah.
plaque and.
And we can get some publicity for the
Yes,
airport.
that was the thinking, okay.
It's a win-win.
So,
Yeah,
just
so
wanted
the-
you guys to be aware that I was kind of pushing that rock. And,
Yeah,
if,
that's a good idea.
and Gary, if you have any other information that might help me with that, or if you want to go up there with me on that Thursday, that
We'll
would
look into it.
huh?
We can look into it.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Yeah,
So,
to,
what I'd really like to find is who made that plaque. If we can, if there's any way to dig that out of either your files or Rhonda's brain or whatever, okay.
Might be able to find that at the museum.
That's a possibility.
And a lot
I've
of
been
them.
researching a lot online for that.
We'll, we'll search our records as well, and to Jim's point, when Mr. Bolt did come by, he actually did end up giving us a couple $100 to put into that, so we did use that to put down new mulch. We cleaned up all the coquina, and we, at the time, we had put crotons in there, but the storm decided to wipe those out, so
Yeah.
we were waiting for the rainy season to put anything back in there.
Yeah.
But yes, some of it did get redone, and we looked into the plaque information a little bit, so I'll research I'll pull back what we were finding back then and send that to you as well.
That was the thing that set me off, was when Robert Page gave money for us to clean up his dad's plaque. Okay, so, anyway,
He's proud, though.
he is, he's a proud son, and I honor him for that, but he should have just been able to just wipe the little dust off and been happy with the way it looked, is the way I look at it. So that's going to be our job to make sure that happens. I've got July 20, did you have, Jeff, have any?
Good.
Okay. I'm showing July 27th for the next meeting for
Yes.
everybody's calendar, okay?
At 2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock, 2 p.m.
At 4:35.
And anything else?
With dinner.
I don't have anything.
Do we need a motion to close, or do I
Make a
just
motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
I second the motion.
Meeting is over.
Meeting's adjourned. I love that.